could do just holding a tennis ball, but like I say, it's the prickly bits of it that we're most interested in. So we're going to start with our feet close together, and you're going to take one ball, and again, if you've only got one of these, that would be sort of okay, not ideal, but if you've only got one, I would keep hold of one, but place the other one, if you have one, between your ankles, not to the point where you're changing the shape as you're holding it there, and absolutely not resting on the floor either. So it's like a tiny bit off of the floor, and you will end up with this weird sort of Martian-like, like as if you've been abducted by aliens and being tested. You'll end up with these little indentations in your skin, but don't worry about that. But what's great is it gets us into perfect alignment. Then we're going to circle the arms round. So we're taking the ball up to above our head. We're going to swap hands at the top and swap hands at the hips. And taking a big, let's take a breath, just natural breathing, breath in as you take the arms up, breath out as you lower. So thinking about where your weight is on your feet, making sure you're a little bit more pitched forwards than back in those heels. About 5 circles of the ball going in this same direction, and then we're going to change direction, probably about now. And I'm also going to change my breathing. So I'm breathing in to prepare, breathing out as I take the arms up, breath in, focusing as always on standing really nice and tall. Breath out. Excuse me if I do a couple more, you know what I'm like, I get chatting about the other things that I want you to concentrate on, and I forget to count myself. So I think that was about 5 in that direction. Let's change direction again. Keep the breathing out as you're taking your arms up if you can. We're going to add a rise. So breath out. Hopefully that ball will stay there. And we're lowering as we breathe in, lengthening the spine. Breath out. Changing the ball in from one hand to the other, above your head and at your hips. One more in this direction. Breath out, breath in. Let's change the direction of the ball. Whoopsie, now just let my ankles just relax slightly then, and now the ball is resting on the floor. So that's what I don't want to happen. So that's quite interesting. I just lost concentration for a moment. So I'm just going to replace it so it's lifted off of the floor, but I'm not squeezing too much, changing the shape of the ball. And let's change direction with the ball that's circling around. So this is our breath out and a breath in as we lower with control. Breath out, breath in. So those insteps are beautifully parallel. Breath out. I'm thinking about really taking my arms out to the side of my body, almost turning the palms up as I take my arms up, thinking about keeping the shoulders down. Breath out, breath in. Okay, we're going to add something else onto this. We're going to still take the rise when you take your arms up, and then we're going to come into a narrow squat. So the legs are in a narrow position, close together. That ball at the ankles is going to keep the legs in perfect alignment. You could also try and put the ball between your knees. It would have the same effect, making sure you're sending that bottom back. So that's when we're changing the ball at the hips. So here we go. Breathing as well if you can. I definitely won't be able to do that as well. So we're meant to be breathing out for the rise, lowering through straight legs, let those heels come down. And then here is maybe your breath in, sending that bottom back. Straightening the legs before you come up onto the balls of the feet. Lowering through the heels, the straight legs, send that bottom back. Remember to keep the chin tucked in on that squat. And actually, if you want to do a slightly different breathing pattern, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure you're breathing. And again, I've dropped my ball. I'm going to lift that up again. So what's happening is I'm just slightly relaxing my ankles, quite interesting, on the squat, and just that little amount of rolling out is meaning that ball is dropping. Hopefully you've kept going while I've been faffing around. I'm going to change direction. I'd like to, this is the last set. This time when you bring the ball down and you're taking going into the squat here, if you can, change the ball behind your knees. It basically means that you're going to have to bend a little bit more, hinge a little bit more. I don't want you to change the ball behind your knees with a really rounded back. So, here we go. Last set, opposite direction. Rising up, changing the ball above your head. Sending that bottom right back, the weight is in my heels. I can just about change behind my knees, straight legs first before I rise. And take that squat, keeping the chin tucked in. So the tendency would possibly be to keep that head lifted, chin lifted, back of the neck is crunching. Keep the back of the neck nice and long, so you're looking down. Let's take one more rise up, one more narrow squat. Breathing has definitely gone all out the window. When you're here, pick up that other ball. So let's just take the feet wide, shoulder width apart, insteps parallel, pushing the balls onto your chest, the front of your shoulders, and then just circling your elbows. So circling your elbows around. So we're just waking up that upper body, that thoracic spine, and just from the feeling of just holding the balls, especially if you've got the spiky ones, and also the contact with your front of your shoulders, will just make your brain think, oh, I'm going to focus on that area a little bit. So thinking about all that lovely movement in the shoulders, and also thinking about, as always, allowing the rib cage to shift around a bit. Brilliant. And then if that's got the back of your neck and shoulders all warm, which it has mine, I'm just going to hold the balls, push them against my legs so that I've got that contact there. I'm going to close my eyes and just gently turn head from side to side. Breathing nice and evenly, facing forwards, ear to shoulder. It's making me wince a little bit. Feels a bit tight today. Half a head circle, so I'm going to turn all the way to the side, take my chin down onto my chest and look up to the other side. And again, I'm doing about 4 of each stretches. By the time I've done 4, it's loosened up a little bit, but if you find a patch that's a little bit sticky or a position that's a bit uncomfortable, stay there, breathe. And I'm just taking those semicircles up to the ceiling, and that feels nicer there. Great. Okay, we're going to bring our feet into first position. We actually only need 1 ball for this one. So from a parallel position, feet quite close together, come up onto the balls of your feet, bring your heels together. And in fact, I need to be a little bit further apart with my feet to start. Do this a couple of times until you find the perfect position. The perfect position is where you can turn the legs out within the hip socket and without having to make any extra adjustments. So no extra twiddling back the toes, which might mean that those ankles roll in. Then when you look down, make sure that the legs are turned out evenly. If you can get your heels together, perfect. If not, don't worry. The lower legs squeezing together. Try and think about rotating the legs out right at the very top of the thighs. And just holding this position should make you be a little bit aware of your turnout muscles. Pelvic floor is switched on. You might become a little bit aware of the gluteal fold becoming nice and active. And we're going to take a bow and arrow movement, but because of the position of the legs, the hips and the legs are going to stay absolutely still. So the movement is only going to happen in that upper body. So let's just reach the ball forwards between your hands with your fingertips outstretched. And I just want you to keep your arms straight, but just pull one shoulder back and then the other shoulder back. This shouldn't be too difficult. So I'm ending up, if I go that way with my arms, I'm ending up with the ball at my wrist on one hand and on the fingertips of the other, and then I'm swapping over. I can't actually do that on that angle. So I'm there and there. You could cheat. This would be cheating. So the ball is ending up in exactly the same position, but I'm only achieving that by bending my arm. Look at my shoulders, they're not moving at all. The whole point of this is rotation of the thoracic spine, the shoulder girdle. So I'm now pulling my right shoulder back. I'm keeping my hips nice and still, holding that position of the legs, and then I'm going to itsy bitsy spider this ball along the inside of my arm, and it's going to come across my chest. Once it's underneath my chin, I think I'm going to need to step forward a little bit actually. Once it's underneath my chin, just watch if you're not familiar with this movement. I'm going to turn my head and open up my shoulders even more. Take hold of that ball as it goes to the other shoulder. Stretch it out behind me so everything is fully rotated and open, and then sweep that back round to the front. So here we go again. So let's start. So start with me. I'm going to pull my left shoulder back this time. Doesn't matter which shoulder you do actually. So take that same movement initially. Reach the other arm forwards. Itsy bitsy spider. This elbow comes up. My left elbow is coming up, but my shoulder is down. I'm going to take it across my chest. As I do that, I can open up even more. I'm pulling back my left shoulder. The ball is underneath my chin. I'm taking hold of it, extending it out behind me, and then coming back round to square. Let's take another 3 of those. Extend that forwards arm. And now I'm actively, I was conscious then that my hip was following me, starting to follow me. I'm going to actively push my right hip forwards because I'm pulling my right arm and elbow back. Even more so there, make sure you're breathing. Number 2 on this left side. So the elbow that you're bringing back, the side that you're pulling back, push that same side hip forwards to counteract. Last one, here we go. Standing up really nice and tall. Reach that front arm forwards, right opposite your spine in the centre, and then rotating round. Well done, good job. Release those shoulders a little bit, release, lift the legs, lift the heels, release the legs. Pop that ball down, and then just make this really nice and relaxed. So feet shoulder width apart. I'm not going too crazy here. I just want to just gently mobilise, keeping my head facing forwards. And now the difference is I'm allowing hips and ankles to go with those shoulders. The arms are nice and heavy, and then the final part is to just look behind you all the way, maintaining a really upright spine. Good. Hopefully you got all nice and warmed up there. Brilliant. Okay, we're going to need one ball again. So this is one where you could, if you were joining in with tennis balls, you could just happily do this with a tennis ball, because we're just going to change the ball. So we're going to stand on one leg. The first movement is just to lift the other leg. So I've just turned sideways so you can see, but I'm lifting my knee as high as I can. I'm going to change the ball from one hand to the other underneath that knee. Then the movement is to swing the leg back to hinge. I'd like you to try and bend the standing leg, get your chest over your thigh, change the ball behind the standing leg. So that's the movement. I'm sort of drawing a figure of 8 with the ball as I do that. An alternative is to come upright, underneath the knee, tap the toe down, go here, just hinge forwards and just change the ball here if you wanted to. You can't hang on to the wall, but another alternative is forget about the ball and just practice this movement if you need a little bit of support. But if you can, stay here. We're going to also take the arms out wide towards the end, still on that same leg all the way through. In fact, I'm going to move my mat over a little bit. So here we go. Underneath that leg, one change of hands. Underneath, behind the knee on the other leg. Underneath, behind the knee, behind the knee. And we're up. So the main focus here, you're going to be thinking about what you're doing with the ball, obviously, but try and focus on keeping your spine in the same shape all the way through. So the movement is happening at the hips, you're hinging at that standing hip. There's no change in the shape of your back. You're never here. It's the same. Whether I'm upright or, whoopsie, it's quite hard on the balance, or whether I'm bending that leg and hopefully not falling over. I'm trying to get my chest over this thigh a little bit today, so I'm trying to work a little bit harder than normal, but actually the leg's starting to get tired already. So remember, you've got your little tap on the floor if you need to, as an interim position. If you can though, keep that leg in the air all the way through. Think about your tissue box, hips and shoulders, square. Here's my front. Okay, we're starting to feel some work. Whew, I'm going to do another 4. Full version. In fact, let's do 5. Oh, now we've got 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now stay on that leg if you can. I'm going to change behind that knee. And then I'm going to extend that leg out behind me. And I'm just bringing my back so I'm in an upright, a diagonal line. You can have that foot on the floor if you need to. But think of this line from the top of your head to that back foot. Or you could be really pitched forwards here. We're going to do pretty much what we did at the beginning in the warm-up. You're going to change hands behind your butt and above your head. Behind your butt, above your head. 5, ooh, in each direction. 1 more. I think I'm going to change direction with that ball. So we've got 10 all together. I'm trying to keep my body still, the legs still, the hips still. Change above your head, not too low. 2 more, maybe. Maybe we've done an extra one there. Oh, last one. Whew, brilliant. Give that leg a bit of a shake. Okay. All on the other side. I did have another exercise there, but I think that we'll leave that there. I'm going to stay facing the same way actually. So, breathing, standing on that one leg. Lifting up and then hinging over your hip. Trying to straighten the standing leg here, so you're lifting that knee as high as possible. And then here I'm actually trying to lay my chest over that thigh a little bit today. So I'm taking a much deeper crease in my hip flexors. But the shape of my spine, hopefully, is staying the same. So your alternatives to tap the foot each time, you could have that foot out behind you, tap to just get your balance, or you could just change there. If you find yourself rounding your back in order to change behind that knee, then don't go so far. I should have maybe asked you to change direction, that would have been interesting for me as well. Shoulders and hips are square to your front. Going to take another 5 and 4, 3. I'm really trying to straighten and then bend that leg as much as possible. Last 2. Last 1. There. And this time I'm going to stay here. I'm going to pitch, straighten out that back leg, thinking of that wonderful straight line, changing behind my back and above my head, behind my back. 3, 2 more in this direction. Think about the hip of the leg that's behind, that's sticking out behind. Make sure that doesn't lift up. Change direction, last 5 if you can. 4, keeping those shoulders down. 3, keep that diagonal line strong. 2, and 1, and stand, and breathe. Brilliant. Okay, well done. We are going to stretch those glutes out a little bit later. Brilliant. Okay, let's take hold of the other ball, and we're going to come down to the floor pretty much. But we're going to take a roll down. Just watch them before you adjust your laptop or change the space that you're in. So we're going to take the roll down with the balls just touching your legs. So I want you to just be really conscious of this contact here, and also the contact in your palms. And I want you to think about 3 stages of the roll down. So just watch me a moment. So the head goes up and over, only the head has moved. Then when you take the next stage, I want you to roll the balls down your thighs, but you're keeping your pelvis in neutral. You're letting your head hang, upper body is completely rounded over. When you've got as far as you can in this stage, let those arms hang. And then take the next stage all the way down. We're going to just take some stretches here, straightening and bending the legs, maybe reaching the balls forwards. And then when you roll up, let those arms, with that little bit of extra weight of the balls, just let them hang, so that you can really focus on the what's going on with that bit of extra weight. Okay, so we are moving that down a bit. Connection is unstable apparently. The good old internet in these times. Okay, so we're here, feet are parallel. From standing up really nice and tall, holding on to the balls, pushing them against your legs, take just the head only, close your eyes, just let that head really hang. And then take the next stage. Think about your weight, think about your pelvis, staying over the middle of your feet, over your insteps. Try not to stick that bottom out. When you can't go any more, let the arms hang. Notice how far forwards, far away from the legs, those arms hang. And then slightly soften the knees and unravel the spine all the way down to the floor. Just nod your head, shake your head, make sure you're not holding any tension in that back whatsoever. So my knees are slightly soft. I'm just going to reach the balls forwards and then walk them away a little bit on my fingertips, but I'm keeping my head down. My head is down, my head is really relaxed, it's just hanging there. And then I'm going to, my knees are soft at the moment, I'm going to try and stay where I am with my hands, and I'm just going to gently straighten the legs, breathing out, and then soft knees, breathing in. Breath out, breath in, breath out, breath in. One more, breath out, breath in. Walk the balls back to your feet, just let your head hang, roll up through the spine, push that pubic bone forwards, unravelling. And just notice how the arms don't come back to your legs until the very end. We're going to do one more of those roll downs, and then we're just going to take some slightly stronger stretches down onto the floor. So we're here, still with the balls touching the legs, so chin onto your chest, keep that pelvis in neutral. Let the balls roll down. Watch that weight doesn't rock back into your heels. So my pelvis is still over my hips, still in neutral. Then I'm letting the arms hang. Then I'm going to just slightly soften the knees. You can really feel that pubic bone roll back between your legs. So sit bones are facing the opposite direction. Reach the balls forwards again. Itsy bitsy spider them a little bit. Keep those legs straightish if you can. and then you're just going to roll your hands, take your weight into the balls and then come back again. Head is hanging and relaxed. I'm just deepening that top of the hamstring stretch. I'm trying to flatten out my back. If this is too much for you, if you're nowhere near that ability of the hamstring length, just come back to this one. Just try and reach the ball forwards and just try and go for the straight legs. But if you can, this is straight legs. Pushing the weight through the balls. Flattening out that back. And then just bend those knees. Walk the hands forwards, ignore the balls a moment, walk the hands forwards and come down onto all fours. Brilliant. Okay, so we are on all fours. Perfect, all fours, square box position. We just need one ball for the moment. Place it between your hands. Spreading your fingers and your thumbs far apart. Dig those fingertips in a little bit. Make sure your shoulders are above your hands, above your insteps. Make sure your knees are underneath your hips. If you can see yourself in the mirror, your back should be in its natural curves. My head is a little bit lifted because I'm looking up at the screen. But once I tuck that chin in, everything is in the correct position. So just bracing, let's curl the toes under and lift both knees off of the floor, hold it there. Belly button pulling back tight towards the spine, just holding it there. One of our 10 things to do every day, a really important movement. Need to have the stamina, the strength. We're building strength in the core, reminding the torso how to brace, holding it there, breathing. And then lower those knees, relax the feet. Okay, from here, I'm going to just release my hand that's closest to you. And then I'm going to put it back down again. What I want you to be very aware of is your shoulder girdle. It doesn't change at all. I'm releasing that hand, just bringing the elbows in, letting my hand just hang. And then I'm going to take hold of the ball and reach it forwards and be very aware from here to here, there's no change on this shoulder. And I'm just going to itsy bitsy spider the ball, tiny bit away. I've got no pressure. I've just got my middle finger just pressing, just not even pressing, touching. It's just touching one of the spikes actually. And I'm working really hard in my centre. I'm going to help my body a little bit by extending the opposite leg away out behind me. And I'm really conscious of my body being a tissue box, really conscious of the connection between the hand that's on the floor and the opposite knee, that crossways connection, lifting the back of the head and neck up. And then I'm going to lift the arm, holding on to that ball, trying to turn the palm up actually. It's like you're offering the ball up to the ceiling and lifting that leg up at the back. Holding that there. Let's hold the arm there, hold the ball there. Lift and lower that leg. 5 times. Keeping the hips absolutely still. Lost count, I think that's 5. Let's lower the ball, the toes at the back, bring the hand back in, bring the leg back in. Try and just come back to your perfect square box without collapsing, and then have a little collapse. And by all means twiddle and stretch out that wrist. Well done. Just maybe drop the hips from side to side. So the hardest thing there is probably that supporting wrist. Good, let's go all onto the other side. So let's just curl the toes under again, or you can have your toes flat if you need to, but just lift those knees off. Remind your torso about bracing, staying still. Imagine for these exercises that your body has become a coffee table. Arms and legs, your arms and your legs are the legs of the coffee table. Your torso is the bulk of it. It doesn't move, it can't move. It's a coffee table. So we're there. Lowering those knees, relaxing the feet, but keeping that centre switched on. I'm going to leave that ball where it was. I'm going to release the opposite hand and elbow initially. Just letting that hand hang. Put it back down again. Just check that you haven't let that shoulder drop, that nothing has changed in your coffee table position. Then reach across to take hold of the ball. Stretch your arm forwards and then slightly walk the ball away a tiny bit. The feet, there's no pressure through this ball, it's just about staying there. Everything is working really hard to stay still. I'm going to extend that leg out at the back, straighten the leg, toes are just touching the floor, holding everything there. Checking that the corners of your coffee table haven't moved. Turn the palm up, lift the ball up to the height of your shoulder. The foot is lifted to the height of your hip. Holding that there 5 times. Lift and lower that leg at the back. There's no change anywhere else. No hip dropping, no leaning. Last one. Good job. Try not to collapse. Lower to touch the floor with the ball and your toe at the back. Just place that ball there. Bring the hand down underneath your shoulder. Bring the knee back in. Just get back to all 4 points being in the right place. And then stretch back. Well done. Again, twiddling the wrist. Stretch the fingers and the thumbs far apart. Make some apple crumble. Get all that blood flow going. Make some strong fists. Stretch the fingers apart. Good job. Okay, we are going to sit up nice and upright. So we're just taking a pyramid stretch to start with. So if you can, sitting right up on your sit bones. If you need to sit on a block or something that's quite firm, that's absolutely fine. But ideally try and work in this position. So we're going to do a couple of exercises here. It's going to get very grippy, and there's a couple. The next exercise is quite grippy on the old hip flexors, but then we're going to stretch them out towards the end. So I'm just holding on to a ball in each hand, and I'm just taking them apart. This can absolutely be done without the balls, but again, because they're prickly, it's just heightening my awareness of where I'm holding my arms, where my fingertips, the contact with the fingertips on that unusual surface. And we're trying to just sit up as tall as possible, and this is possibly one of the hardest exercises to do, especially when your hamstrings are tight and you can't quite get that pelvis in neutral and you feel like you're tucked back here and you're just not going anywhere, which is why it's a good one to try and practice. So you want to just be sitting as tall as possible, right up on those sit bones, so you sort of get the flesh, the extra bits out of the way, sitting up as tall as you can. So there are a couple of alternatives here. You could just soften your knees, which will make you feel like you're sitting much more upright, and that's good. So essentially we're looking for you to work the muscles in the back, to just hold that spine in a beautiful alignment, and also just really lengthening the spine, which is quite difficult. So let's just keep those arms reaching away, fingertips, middle finger again, just touching the top of the ball. Straight legs if you can, but you can leave your legs slightly bent. But yeah, I prefer to have straight legs. If you can, circling the ankles. I'm just trying to move my ankles, my feet at the ankles, not my whole leg for the moment. And now I've changed direction. Sitting tall, trying to lift the rib cage off of the hips, shoulders are drawn down, collarbone relaxed. Good, and now I'm going to make this movement the whole leg. So I'm turning, rotating the whole leg at the hip socket, inwards and outwards. Doesn't go very far. And again, this is tough. Let's change direction. Brilliant. Great work. Okay, give your legs a bit of a shake, have a bit of a rest back here. Just watch a moment while I'm showing you the next one. So the next one is going to be maybe even tougher. We're going to open up the legs, sort of just slightly widen your shoulders. The width of your yoga mat, if you've got one, is a good place to be. Ideally, again, we're sitting really upright. We're going to just explore the difference between a hinge forwards from your hips and a rounding the back, and just using the balls is quite nice here. So sitting as upright as you can, just with your knees and the tops of your feet facing upwards, as in don't let your legs roll out to the outside if that's how they want to be. Try and breathe a little bit of life in them. And then just, if you can, the balls are here, maybe you need to have them on your legs and you're just going to reach forwards this way. But what I would like to try and think about is hinging from the hip. So as always, the shape of your spine doesn't change. So I'm not going here, I'm just hinging. I'm increasing this crease at the front of my hip. And I'm just going to use the balls as a nice little sensory thing, so itsy bitsy spider them out, keeping those shoulders down, and I'm just reaching a little bit further each time with an out breath maybe. And actually I've taken I feel like I want to take my legs a little bit wider than my yoga mat. And you're going to feel a stretch at the top of your hamstrings as well. Oh yes, there's a bit of a minor detail going on there. And then rolling back. So when you come back, hopefully that should feel a little bit more comfortable, if anything, because pitching forwards was quite uncomfortable. Try and relax at the front of your hips. Keep the shoulders down, the neck is long. And breathing. And coming back again. This time, let's change the movement completely. Let's take a roll down from here. Keep the pelvis still if you can. Take your chin down onto your chest, round the shoulders. Again, itsy bitsy spider the balls forwards. Keep just your fingertips on there. Keep reaching forwards, but don't collapse all the way forward. So I'm almost pulling my waistband back. So now this is quite a strong stretch all the way over my back. Going a little bit further and then rounding. I feel like I'm stacking the vertebrae one after the other. And then this time let's hinge forwards. And now just take a complete collapse from that upper body. Let it hang, maybe the balls will go the furthest they've been this time. Now I'm getting a stretch at the backs of my legs, in my lower back as well, and then rolling back up, stacking the vertebrae one by one. Good job, that was tough. Okay, well done. We're going to lie down on our backs. And for the whole of this next section, you're going to have the balls behind your knees. So just watch me a moment before you lie down. So just place the ball behind your knee and then let your lower leg just completely collapse and relax so that you're here. And then place your feet down on the floor and hopefully the balls shouldn't roll out. Again, if you've got spiky balls, they will pretty much stay there. If you've got a tennis ball, it might just get too uncomfortable and the surface might be too smooth and it might just be too hard. So think about being in the base position. So the back of the head is heavy, the nape of the neck curve is in place, the lower back lumbar curve is in place. Really important for this next exercise all the way through. We want that lumbar curve to be in place. We want you to be in neutral, so that's pubic bone or I want it to be, sorry, the royal we, pubic bone and hip bones on the same plane. This should be nice and flat. This depends on how little or curved or not your lower back is curved. I've got a big curve, so therefore I've got quite a big gap there. But I know I'm in neutral because of this bit. So the difference here, we're going to take some knee folds. But because you've got that lower part of your leg relaxed, your knees is going to come in more, it's going to come in further than it normally does towards your shoulder, but I still haven't changed the shape of my lower back. So if you want to, one hand on your lower tummy, one hand underneath that lower back, drawing the knee in, or taking a knee fold. So normally if we weren't working with the balls, that knee would be directly above the hip, foot would be slightly higher than the knee, but obviously that would mean that the ball would drop out. So you're here. I actually really like this to heighten your awareness of how much you can crease and hinge at the hip without it changing your neutral pelvis. This is a really good exercise. So just take these knee folds one at a time. You could place your hands on your hips, your elbows on the floor, tucking the chin in, making sure there's no change. So there shouldn't be any rocking and rolling with the hips up from side to side either. You've switched everything on. Rib cage is drawn down, belly button's gently pulling back, pelvic floor is slightly switched on. Your torso is activated. You use my hands, thumbs on the ribs, fingertips on the hips. There's nothing is changing, nothing is moving. This is good. Okay, I'm going to take both legs up into a sort of tabletop position, but a slightly more in with the knees tabletop position. If you have your knees where they normally would be, that's going to make me flare my ribs. I've got way too much curve going on there. I've actually tilted my pelvis completely the wrong way. So neutral pelvis, no change. There's a pesky zip in these leggings. It's just right in the wrong place. Okay, so we're here. So checking that you're still in your neutral. Now we're taking a toe tap down towards the floor and lifting that leg back in again. Toe tap to the floor, lifting back in. One leg at a time. So much more challenging now. So we're taking one leg at a time. Check the rib cage is drawn down, collarbone relaxed, back of head nice and heavy. And then I'm going to start to switch the legs. So imagine you're walking down the road. Now you're walking a little bit faster. You've realised that you might be late for your meeting. So you're walking a bit faster. Now you've realised, actually, I really am going to be late. So I'm going to just break into a light jog. So we're here. Little bit faster. And this is very strong on those hip flexors. And then just slowing down. So you actually miss the bus then. So you might as well just slow down a little bit and then come back to a walking pace and breathe. Brilliant. Okay, next exercise. Both legs up, hands at the back of the head. Let's have your elbows out to the side for the moment. I've interlaced my fingers. Hands at the back of the head, just to add a bit of extra ballast to the upper body. And we're going to take double leg lowers. Now this is quite strong. You may or may not get your toes. So I've just brought my toes together slightly. Well, actually not slightly. I've brought my toes together, but my knees are still hip width apart. You may or may not get your toes to touch the floor. That's absolutely fine. What you're going to feel is the challenge in trying to maintain your neutral pelvis and not allowing the weight of the legs to pull you out of your good neutral, which is why we want that bit of extra ballast at the top of the upper body to counteract. So we're there, just to take a couple more. So I'm just about got my toes to touch the floor, but I'm working hard. One more. Great, I'm going to bring my elbows in, nice and tight. So I'm going to take an abdominal curl, leaving the legs in this position, thinking about my neutral pelvis. So make sure you haven't inadvertently brought those knees in too much and you haven't tucked under in that lower back. Pelvis is in neutral. Legs are quite relaxed. Hip flexors are starting to feel a little bit grippy, but that's normal. I'm going to take an abdominal curl and lower, double leg lowers and bring them back in. Abdominal curl and lower, double leg lowers and come back. Abdominal curl. Remember the abdominal curl? The way I like you to try is to think of the arms, the elbows are creating the lift of the upper body. You're hinging from the front of your hips. You're absolutely not lifting your head out of your hands. Let's take an abdominal curl. Let's stay up this time. So you've cleared those shoulder blades. Now take your double leg lowers, bring those knees back in and then lower. And again, abdominal curl, double leg lower. Keep that rib cage really connected to your hips at the front. Abdominal curl, double leg lowers. Come back in and lower. Last one of this variety. Coming back and lower. Okay, we're going to come up on a diagonal for your obliques. So I'm coming up to the corner, coming up towards the camera, so do the same. Take the opposite hand to the outside of this nearest thigh, palm is down, try and stay up. Place that hand to the back of your head, come into the centre, lower the toes, come back up to the top, twist to the other corner, reach the arm away, just try and get a little bit of extra height, put the hand at the back, come into the centre and lower. Reverse that direction. We're going to do 3 more sets. Up to your second side, so away from the camera, up in the corner. Clear both shoulder blades, extend the arm, take a little extra reach, stay up, put the hand at the back of the head, come into the centre, take your double leg lowers and lift the legs up. Go to the other corner, extend the arm, try and lift higher, stay there, put the hand at the back of the head, back into the centre and back down again. 2 more of those, up to the corner, here we go. And stretch and reach, stay up, hand at the back of the head, come into the centre, lower those toes, lift the legs back up, go to the other corner, reach, lift a little bit more, stay there, put the hand at the back of the head, back into the centre, down, 1 more, here we go, last one, up to the corner, try and maintain that neutral pelvis lift, stay up, in the centre, double leg lowers, stay strong and lift, turn to the other corner, last one, extend, reach up, stay up and lower, whoo, and just take those nasty pulls away from behind the back of your knees and let your legs loll a bit from side to side. Good job. We are going to do some shoulder bridge. Double legs lower, other side. Yes, we've done that bit. Okay, just to open up the front of these hips. So let's hold on to the balls. Let's just go for feet nice and close to your butt. Feet and knees hip width apart. Holding on to the balls. Just straight bridge. Open up those hips, especially here where we've got very grippy. Switch on those glutes, lift the hips up nice and high, reach the arms back with the balls, leave them there. Let's take a reverse peel down and then bring the arms back up and over. And again, push down through the feet. Try and get your knees as far away from your hands as possible. Your knees are going over your toes. Leave the arms there. Reverse peel. Coming down through every single vertebrae and back down. 2 more, up to the top, stay up, reaching those arms back and roll down through the spine. Last one, push down through the feet. Hips up as high as you can, pubic bone up as high as you can. Watch that those ribs aren't flaring, none of that going on. Connect those ribs down, push them down, push the ribs at the front into the ribs at the back and then into the floor. Every single vertebrae, one after the other. Release to neutral, then bring those arms over. Good job. We are going to place the balls underneath your glutes, one each side. So this in itself is actually a really nice massage. If you've had enough for today, you could just stay here and just have a lovely little roll around, and it would just, yeah, really release that buttock work that we did earlier. But if you can, let's take a little bit of a challenge with our pelvic stability. But first of all, so just make sure the balls are right in the middle of both buttocks. Just get comfortable. Feet flat. Let's just first of all just take a pelvic tilt and then a roll back to neutral. So although the pelvis is lifted, we're still in a neutral spine. That's where we want to try and work. So just exploring that movement, if you like. And this feels quite nice. I'm really scooping up my tummy. Pubic bone is up much higher than my hip bones when I take that pelvic tilt. Feels nice. Great. And just move them around if you need to. And then I'm just going to lift my legs up and let my just lower back in fairly in neutral, maybe a little bit tucked under, but I'm just going to take hold of my hands on my knees and circling. Thigh bones in the hip socket, feels nice. Both directions. Brilliant. And then hold on to one knee, hug one knee in, extend the other leg out along the floor. And this straight leg, the front of this hip, should be getting a wonderful hip flexor stretch there. And my leg doesn't even quite touch the floor. It's very tight at the front of my hip, so this is really good for me. And at the same time, you're just compressing in the other hip. Let's do a bit more multitasking and circle the foot as well. Why not? Good, let's swap legs over. Straighten out one leg, pull the other knee in. Breathe. So the main focus here is this stretching at the front of this hip. Foot's clunking and clicking a little bit. Okay, so here's our pelvic stability work. So make sure those balls are in the middle of your glutes. If you're uncomfortable here, if you don't like this position, if it's just not feeling right, I know one of my ladies, this sets off her sciatic nerve pain, so if it's doing that sort of thing, then just take the balls away. Not quite as effective, but if you need to, that's absolutely fine. So we're going to work from with just thinking about your kneecaps as being the top of your legs for the moment. So just bending your legs at 90 degrees and thinking about moving the thigh bones. So you've got your kneecaps directly above your hips at the moment. Feet are just level with your knees as well. Maybe place your hands on cupping on your hips at the front. Elbows are on the floor. We're just going to take one leg out to the side and then bring it back in. This is pelvic stability, so we're trying to challenge. So your pelvis is on an unstable surface, and we're trying to keep our pelvis absolutely still. So the weight of that leg isn't making you roll all the way over. You're keeping the weight even on both balls as well, hopefully. So an equal amount, one more. Just taking one leg out to the side. Try and take, let's do one more each side actually. Try not to do that, that's just rotating. That's me leaving my foot where it was. Take your foot and your knee out to the same, at the same rate, if you like. Don't leave the foot behind. From there, let's think about a sort of straight line and like an exchange. So I'm just increasing the fold at my hip, the hinge at my hip, and taking the legs one forwards, one backwards. And then bring them back to the centre. So we're going to draw two capital Ds. The capital Ds are back to back. So bring one knee forwards, the other knee away a little bit. From there, semicircle round, so they end up in the opposite position, and then back to the centre. Go the same direction. Let's go the same direction 3 times. So I'm thinking about my kneecaps, remember. Forget about what's going on with the rest of your leg. Semicircle round, and then back to the centre. One more in this direction. Semicircle round, back to the centre, change direction. Semicircle, so they're going in opposite directions. One knee's coming towards you, the other knee's going away. They're taking the semicircle, an equal semicircle, and then coming back. Brilliant. Last one here, if you can. Exactly the same thing, but with the legs up straight to the ceiling. So feet above your hips, if you can. I've probably taken a slight pelvic tilt now. It's absolutely fine. If you've had enough, take the balls away, or just maybe have a little bit of a roll around on them. But if you can, we're going to take one leg out to the side, noticing the different level of stability required, because we've now got that whole long lever of that whole leg. My pelvis really would like to roll over to that side. I'm trying to stabilise. One more each side. So again, elbows on the floor, hands just lightly touching your hips. Make sure the leg that's meant to be staying still stays still. It doesn't counterbalance in the opposite direction. Let's go forwards and backwards slightly. Come back to your central point. Forwards and backwards slightly. This might depend on your length of hamstring. So you could do exactly the same thing. So remember, we're moving from the hip with the legs slightly bent if your hamstrings are tight. But just don't change the shape of the leg. Keep it bent or keep it straight. Move from the hip. One leg forwards, one leg backwards, away from you, away from that central position. Good, and then let's take our 3 in each direction, capital Ds, back to back, away from each other, semicircle round, and back into the centre, and again. Semicircle round, back to the centre. And change direction. So the nice thing about this is you can see what's going on with your legs. Try and keep everything even and symmetrical. Both sides, I think that was the third one. Brilliant. Bring those legs down. Lift your hips up. Take the balls away. Ooh, rest your bottom back down on the mat, and it will feel like your bottom has disappeared. Yeah, just let your legs roll about from side to side a moment. Hopefully that should feel quite nice. It's like having had a deep tissue massage all around those hips. Okay, good job. We are going to skip sideline today because I'm nearly out of time. So we're going to go on to our tummies with the balls. Last thing with the balls. So just have a quick look before you lie down on your tummy. So we're going to take a V with the arms, with the balls are going to be underneath your hands, and then bringing the elbows into like a W shape, but it's probably going to be more of a V and an E. VE day. That's quite appropriate, isn't it? Yeah. Excellent. Glad I thought of that. Okay, so we're lying down on our tummies. Let's start in the E. No, let's start in the V so that we can make it VE day. So my legs are hip width apart, pubic bone pushing into the mat a little bit, rib cage is drawn down and connected, face looking down at the mat, tip of my nose just touching, and then I'm just going to lift the back of the head and the neck off. So the balls are underneath my palms and my arms are straight, shoulders are reached down. I'm going to just let my elbows, although my arms are straight, I'm going to let my elbows just slightly bend and just slightly hover along the floor. And I'm going to basically itsy bitsy spider my hands back and in. Actually, yeah, I can come into more of a W position. So I'm thinking of bringing those elbows into my sides. It's quite strong work around the shoulder blades in the back. And then itsy bitsy spider out into that V. So elbows are just brushing the floor. Try and keep the shoulder tips, the front of your shoulders lifted. Don't let them round. If you let those elbows lift up, they probably will round. So drop the shoulders down. Maybe lift your back a little bit. So this is quite hard as far as shoulder, scapular stability and endurance goes. Working those muscles around the shoulder blades in your back. Just also building the endurance at the back of the neck. Counterbalancing our forward head carriage. So the head is able to stay in line with the shoulders. Elbows are just brushing the floor. Just hold it back here. This is really quite strong. Elbows are touching the floor. Take hold of the balls if you can and just try and lift them off. Just slightly. Hold it there. Breathe. Keep that pubic bone pushing into the mat. Keep the rib cage connected to your hips. That's strong. Okay, I'm going to itsy bitsy spider the arms out again into the V. I'm going to just bring the balls a little bit closer to the heel of my palm now. My arms are straight and I'm just going to keep my arms straight, pushing down on the balls to lift up. My back is in a nice back extension and then just roll away again. So the balls are underneath my palms, my wrists, keeping the arms straight. When you lower, allow those shoulders to shrug up towards your ears, and then as you just start to lift your back, slide your shoulder blades back towards your hips, push down on the underneath of those arms and coming up. You don't have to go very high. So there, and releasing. Let's have one more. Breathing out and breathing in as you lower, and fantastic job. Put those balls away for the moment. Come up onto all fours. Take a good old spine circle, both directions. Curling those toes under. Push the weight back. Have a little bit of a movement around. And then take those feet nice and parallel. Heels are down, let the head hang. And then rolling up through the spine, unravelling all the way to the top, adjusting hair and clothing when you're there. Thank you so much. Next live class is tomorrow at midday, a Pilates class C. I hope to see you again. Thank you.